as we discussed, we are going to be looking at starts today, and this is going to be relevant for those of you that are endeavoring to do starts sometime in the near future, and also those of you who have no starts on your immediate horizon. Our basic concept with a start is to basically get the boat going from a dead standstill, hopefully up to something approximating race pace and speed, relatively effectively without crabbing or falling in or all those lovely things that flash through your mind as you're sitting with your square blades, sitting somewhere near your catch. So there are a couple things that we can look at that can hopefully make this whole process a lot simpler and hopefully a lot more stable so that we don't quite have to freak out quite as much. So if you are not already familiar, we're looking usually the starting sequence of not starting quite at full slide. So when we've been looking at the pick drill the last month or so at this point, you'll start to see the relevance of actually knowing what quarter slide, half slide, three-quarter slide actually are. Because at the start, your adrenaline and anxiety and everything else is usually probably pretty high, and so if you don't have these concepts ingrained fairly well, it's going to be a disaster pretty quick. So usually with a starting sequence, we are starting somewhere up through here, three-quarter-ish slide, maybe you prefer a half slide, something like that. And the first stroke is really just about kind of getting the boat up and out of the water a little bit and moving it just a wee bit. Okay? Remember that water is sticky, especially along the surface of the hull, and so it's sort of like kind of sucking the boat down. And you've experienced this if you've ever tried to get a blade that is square, that's on the water, and lift it off. There's a little bit that I have to push down, whereas when it's square, it comes out very easily. So this is the surface tension kind of sucking the blade down. This is also why when you're square, you're going on the feather, and the boat kind of lifts over to one side, it is usually more inclined to stay on that side because the surface tension is sucking that blade down. So, same concept's happening with the boat. We want to kind of break that loose and just get the boat moving a little bit. So, when doing our start, the first stroke, we really want to make sure that we're not just ripping on it. Really, the concept of the first stroke is just to get the boat moving a little bit. So, pry it clean, get it free of the water, and then we can start to actually build the speed up from there. So to do this effectively, it's important that that first stroke, particularly the release, is spot on. Because if it's not, we're down like this, and we're trying to get the boat up to speed, and we've already hit the brakes because we haven't gotten out cleanly. So a lot of this, nearly all of this, gets back to how we are using our simple leverage points. We have just a quick review. We've got a couple leverage points. We have a connection with the feet, simple physics. We've got a connection with the pin, in this case it's the sprocket which the chain is spinning on. And we've got this little contact with our seat. It's really the main big piece of it. And that connection with the sprocket is done through the handle, whether it's out here in a pin or whether it's there, whatever it is, simple leverage. So to be able to make this system stable, it is very helpful to ensure that we have a nice even connection through our feet. And since the seat moves, we have this variable here, which does lots of things that we may not intend it to do. So we want to make sure that when we're sitting at square blades and we have, boat that's kind of wobbling around and we're trying not to tense up too much, it's helpful if we have a nice low center of gravity and are already connected down into here. So, how do we do that? This is where you respond. Any thoughts? Well, we know that when we get up to the catch, we're looking to hopefully leverage our weight, hang our weight. This makes boats go a lot faster than just doing sort of seated leg press. And how do we hang our weight? What can we do with our body that allows us to sort of get more of our mass? This is why rowers can be big and still participate in an aerobic event. If you were endeavoring to do like distance running, most of you would be SOL because you're too big. Take a look at Kenyans. It's like Terry had a great one. It's lungs with legs. It's basically what they are. Mass does not help you. Here in rowing, mass does if you have the lung capacity to support it. That's why you can get people like, Steve Redgrave, Matthew Pinsett, enormous men. I mean, 6'6", just like, look like they, Roman gladiators. So, if I shift my weight on my hips forward of my sit bones. Is this sounding familiar? Then, as I start to push into my feet, the simple leverage, if I hold this connection with my body, all this mass, you know, dinner last night, maybe breakfast this morning, is all going into making the boat go this way, assuming I can get it connected. Okay? This is good. Boats go fast and we get force into it. And if I'm sitting at the start, if I make a point to sit up and shift forward on those hips, then I'm connected down into here. So as soon as I start to move, I have a much better chance because I've eliminated this variable. If I'm kind of sitting here, or I'm kind of sitting here, doing this, not really flexible, as I start to move, I don't really have the same force into my feet. And at some point, probably, you know, knowing rowing's technology development, probably in the next 30 years, we will get some sort of little pressure sensor which will tell us and probably give feedback to coaches in terms of how much force is actually being placed into both shoes. But for the time being, you know, we're still operating in the 1950s, no problem. So here we are, and we shift our weight forward on our hips in front of our sit bones. And now as I do that, I can feel my feet sinking down into the foot stretchers. This is good. So as soon as I move, I'm instantly connected. And if I'm instantly connected, I have a much better chance of applying equal force to both blades all the way through, which gives me a much better chance of actually getting the blades out with a little bit of pocket and hopefully together. Which, as you probably have experienced, whether you're aware of it or not, gives you a much better chance of actually getting the blades out cleanly, which keeps the boat set, which allows you then to kind of get the boat up to speed. Everybody up to speed so far? So, when we are going to be practicing these starts, the most important thing is just to make sure that we are thinking about sitting up. And if you've had coaches in the past, it's like, yeah, you want to sit up. This is good. Understanding what actually sitting up means. And it really is a sense of hopefully lengthening up through our spine so that we have a better chance of shifting forward on our hips, assuming we have the flexibility. But this is the point. Get forward on the sit bones, and then as we leverage, boom, I'm connected right away, and I can squeeze through much more evenly. Okay? So, today, what I want you to practice, you're going to take my word for it, you are going to experience this, you're going to try this two ways. You're just going to kind of sit up and kind of, you know, something like this, kind of sitting back on my tailbone, and just try a start for just the first stroke. You don't have to do a start, even for those of you that are not doing starts. If you start at a catch position rather than the finish, you get a much better chance to kind of feel, oh, did I do that right? Because the boat, you know, it's going from a dead standstill, you got one little piece to kind of get it moving, and if you don't get it right, the boat kind of flops around. So I start here, slouch, or lean back on my tailbone, and just see how consistent am I in actually kind of getting through and getting those blades out cleanly, having the boat set, and hopefully maybe having the blades release in time. And then try it the other way. Shift forward on the hips, sit a little taller, see what happens. And if you find something contrary to that, please, by all means, pull me over, and we can figure out what's going on. Maybe you're an anomaly in physics, but I'm guessing not. So, for those of you that are actually doing starts, we're looking at probably something in 3/4, unless you want to do half. 3/4, try it through, and the next stroke's going to be a little shorter. Usually something in about half slide. Half slide being here, not here. Half slide. All we're looking to do is just, we've given the boat a little bit of input. But water's sticky, and gravity's always there, so it's pulling it back down. So you don't have a lot of time. You've got a very narrow window. Come back up and give it a little more input, just to kind of spin this wheel. We've kind of talked about this in the past, but we haven't used it this season yet. But you know, if you were a kid and you had a bicycle wheel, you know, you're trying to keep it spin it the fastest. You know, you kind of, our bicycle wheel here is our boat. We've got a little more mass, a little more, you know, needs a little more input to kind of get the inertia going. But we give it a little input and we come back and we just want to kind of spin it again and spin it again. If we actually grab the wheel and grab the wheel and go, we're never going to get it spinning very fast. So the same thing here. We want to spin a little bit, spin it a little bit, spin it a little bit, back, boom, boom, and pick it up gradually up to speed. So 3/4 through, then half, and then slowly progressing back up, further up the full slide. Okay? When practicing starts, if you are legitimately endeavoring to, you know, sometime in the future to do starts, my strong recommendation is to do it one stroke at a time. The important thing with starts, remember, is the boat speed is very low. When you're at the start, usually anxiety is very high. most people are like, let's just get past the start and just get into the race. It's like, you're never going to win a race on a start, but you sure as heck could lose it, especially in 1,000 meters. So if you crap yourself during the course of the start, and you're freaking out, and you're trying to get the boat up back to speed, the rest of the field's like, bye. Especially if it's a tight field. So, you want to make sure that every stroke is pristine. And to do this, we want to back off on the pressure, as in paddle pressure, and do one stroke at a time until it's perfect. And you can do a perfect one, or your version of perfect, several strokes in a row. So you do one stroke, and then you check it down, you do one stroke, until you can get those releases perfect. And then you do 2 strokes, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, all at paddle. Once you get that, then you can try half pressure and half speed. The key is to make sure you get the sequence down so that you have it just automatic. And then you can add the pressure in. When you dial off on the pressure, I think I mentioned this in a previous talk, you're much more able to feel, am I actually prying through the water evenly on both sides? When I start to pull, sometimes I kind of pull unevenly, and this makes lots of problems at the release. So if I can feel the pry through, I don't need a lot of pressure, and I think some of you may experience this when we were doing one finger. It's like, I don't need that much. It was like, holy cow, I can just like relax and just, yeah. You don't need that much to get the leverage. So find that little amount that's just necessary to get the suspension, and let the rest of it just kind of take care of itself later on. So, sequence. Usually something 3/4 or half, 3/4, full, or 3/4, building 7/8. Progressively building as the speed increases. Questions about that? So, if you are not endeavoring to do starts in a race, this is still a very good practice in terms of feeling the value of shifting the hips. And surprise, surprise, the shifting of the hips is also relevant, say, just with normal full slide rowing. So if you can feel the value here in terms of getting the blades out cleanly, then maybe this will give you a little more incentive to practice in terms of flexibility and body positioning just when you're rowing normally. Is that right?
So
okay.
When we're in the race,
yeah.
Do we want to crank on it, or do we want to take it easy too, like at a race start?
Yeah. So until you get very, very proficient, I would recommend, at least on the first couple strokes, particularly the first one, just getting through. Many times when people are very excited and they're maybe not buried a lot, I actually just saw some very nice photos of this from this was the D2 races at NCAs. You see a couple, nice first stroke. The cameras are all right there. You can see somebody just ripping out this huge mound of water, kind of getting ready to spray, and then there's other people where the oar is flexing, but the water is just kind of bumping. You want to make sure you stay buried, and usually people, when they first take the first stroke, or if they're not quite buried or whatever, they kind of rip out, and that's usually not good for finishing in time. So first stroke, just break the bond to the water, and then the next stroke, increase the pressure a little bit, increase the rating, and then we're rolling from there. So if you can get it down on paddle pressure, then just start to increase the speed and the intensity and see where the wheels start to fall off the cart.
And should I've been intentionally burying my blade a little more
on the first stroke.
On the first stroke. Is that
usually a good idea?
Yeah. Okay.
Because the blades are set up to be buried at a point where, when at speed, where that will grip best. And if you look, if you let a blade just rest in the water, there's usually about this much of the blade that's out of the water. But once you're up to speed, as you start to press, the water mounds up, and that's perfect buried height. But at the start, yeah, just to make sure that you don't slip out, sometimes it's nice to kind of lift up a little bit. But unless you're very proficient, usually there's so many other things going on that, lifting a little higher is like a couple steps lower on the priority list. But it's a good thing to look at further on, yes. Any other questions?